Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. And in this video, we are going to be going through the Lost Chapter for Lenna, and of course we are going to be concentrating on the hardest fight on this Lost Chapter, which is the Devoted Heart Part 14. So without further ado, let's start this video. Okay, so as always, we'll start off with the weaknesses, resistances, and the abilities of the Savage Drake, which is the boss for Lenna's Lost Chapter. As for its weaknesses, it has weakness to ice and water elements, and it has resistance to the thunder element. As for its abilities, it has Bio, which is a magic brave attack, which also inflicts poison, and of course this will be Biora from level 35, and Bioga from level 65. So you will see the Bioga form more often, especially in the hardest fight of this Lost Chapter. Next it has Tail Hammer, which is a melee HP attack. Miserable Fog, which is a magic brave attack, which also inflicts an attack down, speed down, and poison as well. It has access to Thunder Breath, which is a group Thunder Magic Brave attack, which has a low chance of inflicting Paralyze. Next it has Charge, which increases its Brave based on its initial Brave, and grants itself a defense up, and he will definitely use Poisonic Ray on its next turn. Now Poisonic Ray is a 9-hit group Brave magic attack plus an HP attack. Each brave attack actually hits randomly, so it can target from one to the next and next to the other. This also inflicts an attack down and poison debuffs on its target and has a low turn rate. Next is the Supercharge, which again, just like Charge, increases its brave based on its initial brave. This grants itself more of a defense up than the Charge version, and it will definitely use Wild Rage on its next turn. Wild Rage is basically a 4-hit melee brave attack plus an HP attack, and again, each brave attack hits randomly on its targets. Again, this also inflicts an attack down and poison debuff on its targets, and also has a low turn rate. And of course, finally, it has a low resistance to initial Brave Down debuff, and has a high resistance to max Brave Down debuff and the poison debuff as well. Okay, so now that we know the weaknesses, the abilities, and the resistances of the Savage Drake, it's time to take a look at some general tips and guide. And for the first one, it's generally to save about 70% of your abilities for the boss. Of course, this is for each character. Preferably you would be able to save them, especially now that we have quite a lot of AoE abilities from characters. Hopefully you should be able to breeze through the first couple of waves and save about 60 to 70% of your abilities, because you are going to be fighting 2 Savage Drake instead of 1. The next one is obviously to bring in the boosted characters or your synergy characters. In this Lost Chapter, you have an option with Lenna, Ramza, and King. Now, if you do not have any of these boosted characters leveled up or don't have their weapons, other characters that you might want to consider bringing are Golbez, Quistis, Lael, Kefka, Kuja, Agrias, Vaughn, Bartz, Paladin Cecil, Faris, Vanille, Ace, Deuce, Ishtola, Setzer, Onya Knight, or Lilith Set. Now, as for the healers plus Brave battery options, of course you have an option between Rems, Selfie, Maria, Eiko, or Katesith. But of course, if you are bringing Lenna, then Lenna is the better version out of all of these characters. She's just a total beast of a support character. Now for the summon, you do have an option between Ifrit, Shiva, and Leviathan. Of course, Ifrit is the only level 30 summon that we have, so he's probably the better option, even though the Savage Drake is weak to ice and water. So now that we have some general tips, it's time to take a look at some tips for the fight itself. Now the first one I have here is to bring in Golbez, Kefka, or Quistis for your support. The Golbez is going to be your DPS kind of support if you're lacking in that department, or you just want to bust through the boss. Basically, you know, if you have a full DPS team, and you can bring in Golbez. There is no HP damage requirement for this fight, so you can go ham on it. Of course, you still want to get that 170,000 points, but I feel like it's quite easy to get if you're really blitzing through this content. Kefka is there if you want to avoid the HP damage, and Quistis is, of course, the delay queen at this time. The next tip I have for you guys is to kill them one at a time. There is no enrage mechanic, so you can definitely kill one of them and concentrate on the last one. It's really up to you whether you want to kill them both at the same time. I just feel like killing them one at a time is probably the safer option. Now for the summon, which is the next tip for you guys, is don't summon while the dragons are charging, especially if they are in supercharge. During these times they have a higher defense, so this will lower your overall damage. Not that if you are bringing like a full-on DPS team, I don't think it will matter too much, but if you are lacking in that department and you want to, you know, maximize your summon to its full potential, then try not to summon during these times. And the final tip I have for you guys here is to remember that after charge it will use Poisonic Ray, which is going to be a Brave plus HP attack. If you have Kefka, then you can cancel this out with his Trine ability, but you do have to remember that it will keep on trying to use the Poisonic Ray. So basically you have to keep reapplying the Trine debuff on the boss. I have tried this out and I actually didn't pay attention and ended up eating 2 Poisonic Rays when the debuff ran out. So just keep reapplying that and hopefully you can kill them before, you know, they actually kill you or you ran out of the debuff ability, because Kefka only has 4 uses, so if you do have his 15 CP, that's like times 2, which is 8 turns of avoiding an HP attack. Now if you are planning to use Agrias and her EX, then you can definitely silence the Poisonic Ray. However, you cannot silence Wild Rage because this is actually a melee attack. And one other thing is, I really don't have Agrias's EX to test this out, so I don't know if it will keep persisting on trying to use Poisonic Ray, just like it persists on using Poisonic Ray when you apply Kefka's debuff on the Savage Drake. So if you know that if it will keep persisting using the Poisonic Ray, please leave it down in the comments below and let me know, because there's no way for me to try this out. Okay, so now that we have some general tips for the fight itself, let's take a look at some possible party compositions. Now the first one is obviously going to be your synergy characters, which in this video I end up using. And for your support, you can either bring Golbez or Quistis. And for your summon, it's going to be Ifrit. This composition is basically self-explanatory because you do have Lenna in your team. Basically, she will shield you from all the debuffs, and you can inflict initial breakdown on the boss as well. The next composition that I have here is something I actually tried out, but I didn't end up recording. I actually got a higher score with this team, which is Golbez, Kefka, and Kuja, which is the villain team, and I ended up using Golbez as my support, although you can use Lenna as your support if you want to avoid an HP damage. That's totally going to up to you. Well, not avoid the HP damage, but avoid like getting debuffed. That's what I should say. I'm sorry, that was wrong. So you can bring Lenna as your support if you don't want to get debuffed, and use Ifrit as your summon. Basically, I walked through this. You know, the only thing that you really have to pay attention to is, of course, reapplying Kefka's debuff. So there you go. And for the third one, I have the Agrius Quistis in Golbez composition. Basically, Agrius to silence, Quistis to push back. Golbez is your main DPS, and of course another Quistis for your support to keep pushing them back, and Ifrit for your summon. The last one I have here is a pretty low budget one if you really think of it like that. Selfie is the replacement for Lenna. Basically, Selfie's still has a chance to block off debuffs. It's not 100% like Lenna, but still it is quite useful. Plus, Selfie can heal you, so if you do end up getting HP damage, she can still heal you up. And as for the support, then you can have Golbez or Quistis, and for the summon, I would recommend Ifrit. Alright, so we are coming to the end of this video. Now, of course, my final thoughts for this fight. Now, if you guys didn't know, I have covered the EX fight of this way back when, I think just before I got married. And this was one of the hardest EX that we had to go through. And honestly, right now, with the abundant characters of different characters that we have, it's not as hard as it used to be. Now, it can still be a little bit difficult, especially for new players. That is a given. However, there are lots of characters that can make this really doable, and these are like Quistis and of course Golbez, and of course if you planned on pulling for Lenna, she is a monster in this fight. Not monster in damage wise, but to protection wise, she is very good because she can block off 100% all the debuffs that the Drakes can basically apply on you. Honestly, the only really last thing that I want to reiterate is going to be paying attention to charge and supercharge. If you are bringing Kefka, then that's great. If you have Agrius, that is semi-great. And of course, if you have Quistis, you can just push them away as much as you can. However, having a healer here will definitely benefit you. If you do not have Lenna, then something like an Echo or again Selfie is a great option to have. But overall, I didn't find the fight as hard as obviously the EX version of it. Still, having two Savage Drake can be quite challenging. They do have a decent amount of HP in them, so just be careful of that and make sure you do have enough of your abilities at your disposal. So overall, I still think this is in let's just say in the mid-tier sort of difficulty. It's definitely harder, I believe, than Quistis Lost Chapter or something like that, especially if you have Quistis just pushing everyone away. You know, I suppose this is just my own opinion anyway, and you guys might have a different what's the word I'm looking for, a different experience than I do, especially if you are bringing different types of characters than what I would suggest or what I had brought in. Like I said, I went with the villain team and actually scored a lot higher than what you guys are seeing here on this video. So, you know, it's not a matter of getting like the highest score. As long as you meet the requirement, I think it should be fine. Anyway, I think I will leave it at that. So I just put this in the mid tier, you know, difficulty, especially if you don't have Lenna or Selfie or anything that can block a debuff. But you can just reapply your buffs anyway, you know, you just push those debuffs as well. That is also an option. Anyway guys, I think, yeah, I'll end the video right here. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I'd like to hear from you guys. Which team or what team did you use in order for you to beat this lost chapter? And of course, if what your score was on those attempts. And yeah, just remember to leave them down in the comments below. I like to read and try out different kinds of team compositions that some people have posted, and yeah, sometimes they are, you know, very interesting for me. And make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.